Break time is over, boys and girls. Let's talk about Texas. How's it going, everybody? My name is Eric, and welcome again to Out of the Groove. For an off week especially, I've been making a lot of episodes. If you missed the last couple days, I've been going through Fox Sports' top 50 NASCAR drivers of all time. So if you missed either of those videos, please check them out. Those were very interesting to react to. But today's episode is going to be relatively short. We're going to talk about my picks for Texas Motor Speedway this Sunday, and I'll go over a little bit of news that came out this week. Kind of out of nowhere, NASCAR dropped the 2019 schedule earlier this week, and there were pretty much no changes at all. Yeah, no, 2019 is basically going to be in the exact same order as 2018 this season, which isn't super surprising. NASCAR kind of has deals with a lot of these tracks right now that they kind of have to run them a certain amount of times, and I think not until 2021 will NASCAR really be in a position where they can make a lot of major changes. And apparently there's been rumors that there could be some major changes in 2021. But as for 2019, next year, no real changes. It's going to be very similar to what they're going to be doing this year. Although I know this year is definitely a little bit different once we get especially the second half of the season towards the playoffs. This year's schedule is definitely a little bit different than last year's schedule, so we'll start to see those changes taking effect pretty soon. So I think this year's schedule is better than last year's. So I guess by that logic, I think 2019's schedule is at least better than last year's. But there's not really a whole lot to talk about there. I just thought I'd bring it up in case anyone was unaware of that news popping up. So anyway, the bulk of today's episode is going to just be talking about picks for Texas. And I'm glad I have a little bit extra time to talk about this because there's a few drivers. It's tough to narrow down to one pick this week. I'm going to talk about three main categories that I have for this week's picks. The big three, which are basically my three top picks for this race, the three best drivers to watch out for. Dark horses, which are, the drivers that are, maybe going to fly under the radar but are likely to have a decent day. And then the driver who's I think is going to have the most disappointing race on Sunday. So with that, I'll start with the big three. First on that list, I gotta say, Kevin Harvick. This name definitely shouldn't be that surprising. He's won 3 times out of the first 6 races already this season. He's won both of the mile-and-a-halfs we've been to so far this season. Texas Motor Speedway is a mile-and-a-half. Pretty different from Atlanta and Las Vegas for sure, but it's still a mile-and-a-half, so a setup will probably be similar. Kevin Harvick also won this race last November, or not this race, but he won at this track last November, actually beating Martin Truex Jr., who had dominated the mile-and-a-halfs last season. So Kevin Harvick, that was impressive the last time they were at Texas. He's been really good this year. It's hard to say that Harvick's not going to be the top pick for victory lane once again. The second big name in my big three is just that, Martin Truex Jr. These may seem like obvious picks, but like I said, Martin Truex Jr. did win 7 races on mile-and-a-half racetracks last year. And he did get a win at Auto Club a couple weeks ago, which is not a mile-and-a-half, but it is a big track where horsepower is important and, aerodynamics are important, so they clearly have a decent setup, and they've been consistently good this year. Martin Truex Jr. is always a person you have to watch out for on mile-and-a-half racetracks, so it should come as no surprise that I have him as one of my big 3 picks here. It's close between him and Harvick. I'm going to give Harvick the slight edge over Martin Truex Jr. mainly because the last time we were at Texas Motor Speedway, Kevin Harvick beat Martin Truex Jr. head-to-head late in the race, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt just for that reason alone. And this one also might seem kind of obvious, but my third driver as part of my big 3 is Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has won the Spring Texas race twice since 2013. He's finished second a bunch of times already this season. He's been right up there, right around there. I gotta say, Kyle Busch there's a good chance he breaks through and gets his first win of the season. He's been close a couple times this season already. This could be the week he does it. I think if Harvick or Truex runs into issues, Kyle Busch will likely be right there to pounce and take advantage of them. So those are my big 3, the top 3 picks. I mean, I think these have been the top 3 drivers in the sport for consistently this season. And so I guess it comes as little surprise that they would be high on my list here for Texas Motor Speedway. Moving on though, I know we all like to talk about the underdogs, the drivers who we may not think about right away when we think about winners at Texas. So here are my dark horses. My first dark horse pick is Ryan Blaney. And at first you might say, oh, Ryan Blaney, he's been running up front a lot this year. I consider him a dark horse because, he does only have 1 career win in like 2 or 3 years of his career now, so I'm going to consider him a dark horse until he wins a couple more times. Ryan Blaney, he's been really good this year. He finished 6th and 12th at the 2 Texas Motor Speedway races last season, which is not bad. He finished 5th at Las Vegas earlier this year, and he's coming off a surprisingly good 3rd place run at Martinsville a couple weeks ago. Martinsville's a track very different from Texas Motor Speedway, but it's a track that Ryan Blaney has historically not been, that great at. It's, an okay track for him. So to finish 3rd and even win a stage in that race was impressive. So I gotta think that team's got some momentum coming into this week. I know the off weekend maybe, kind of stalls out that momentum, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And Penske's always been pretty good. Keselowski and Logano have run well at Texas in the past. I think Blaney does very well this weekend. So look for him to at least finish top 5. I would be surprised if he's not at least in the top 6 or 7 during the race. My second dark horse pick is Erik Jones. Erik Jones still seeking his first career win. I think Texas Motor Speedway and Bristol, these next 2 races we have coming up, are going to be 2 of his better chances. He's only run at Texas Motor Speedway 3 times now in his Cup career, and he's been okay, but if you look at his Xfinity Series stats, Texas Motor Speedway has been by far his best racetrack. In 6 Xfinity starts, Erik Jones has 3 wins at Texas Motor Speedway and an average finish of 2.1. That's pretty good. Now, I know Xfinity Series is very different from the Cup Series. Erik Jones would not be my pick to win, but he's definitely I think should be highly considered for a top 10 finish. I think he could even sneak in there and get a top 5. Wouldn't be too surprised to see that. So Erik Jones, he would be my other dark horse pick. But Ryan Blaney's probably a better bet. I think Erik Jones, though, is maybe a little bit better value. He's probably going to fly a little bit more under the radar. So then my final category, I wanted to highlight the driver I think will probably have the most disappointing race at Texas Motor Speedway. And I think that driver will probably be Jimmie Johnson. I only say that because Jimmie Johnson hasn't run that well this season. It'd be kind of, ridiculous to expect him to run top 5 and maybe win this weekend. If he could, but it's unrealistic at this point given how that team has performed so far this year. But the reason I'm going to go ahead and say this is probably going to be a disappointing race for Jimmie Johnson is because Jimmie has owned Texas Motor Speedway at least the last 5-10 years. He has won 6 of the last 11 races at Texas, including this race 1 year ago. So to say Jimmie Johnson has owned the Lone Star State, that would be an understatement. Compared to everybody else in the field, Jimmie Johnson has by far the best career statistics at this track. He's done it recently as well. This isn't like he had all this dominant success early in his career. He's been doing that in the last few years. So we've kind of just come to expect Jimmie Johnson to be one of the toughest guys to beat every time we come to Texas. And so I'm sure a lot of you Jimmie Johnson fans had this weekend maybe circled on your calendars as possibly the track that we could see Jimmie Johnson get back on track. Maybe he doesn't win but gets top 5, top 3, maybe leads some laps. This could be the race weekend where we see the 48 car show signs of being a playoff driver like we know he's capable of showing. And to that I'm just gonna say maybe hold your horses just a little bit. I don't know if I'd get too excited for that. I wouldn't get too amped up because it's a high possibility that I'm gonna get my spirits greatly diminished by the end of this weekend. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much of it's Jimmie or the car or Hendrick or Chevy as a manufacturer these days with the new Camaro. I don't know what it is, but if you ask me, you can expect another 12th place run from Jimmie Johnson this weekend. He's probably gonna run around 10th, 12th, 15th. Probably gonna finish around there. Probably gonna be another very so-so day. That's what I think you can expect. I'll be happy if Jimmie Johnson does better. I'll be happy if he comes out and runs top 5. I'm rooting for Jimmie to have a good season, but don't really see it happening. If you want my definitive pick, I've kind of hinted at. My pick is Kevin Harvick for the race this weekend. It's the easy pick. It's the boring pick, but he's been so fast this season. He's had the best car in probably 4 out of the 6 races this year, and he's had the best car on both 1.5 miles we've been to already. Texas is a 1.5 miles, still freshly repaved, reconfigured 1.5 miles. Kevin Harvick won here just a few months ago. I think he's a safe pick. Thanks for watching, everybody. I know it's a short episode today, but I did 2 other episodes earlier this week, so you can go check those out again if you have not already. I did a podcast yesterday with Danny B Talks and the Iceberg. You can go check it out on Danny's channel. If you didn't subscribe to both him and the Iceberg, because we're doing a podcast basically every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, rotating channels. I think next week we'll be on the Icebergs, and then we'll probably be back on this channel again in a couple weeks. So keep a lookout for that. It's really fun. We just talk about whatever's going on in NASCAR. We take questions from you guys live. So it's always a good time, and sometimes we might even include other guests on the show, so keep an eye out for that. So anyway, yeah, I've checked all my boxes, crossed all my T's, dotted all my I's. That's all I got. Thanks for watching, everybody. Subscribe, all that jazz. Follow me on Twitter at DexRacing. I plug everything. It's in the description. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see ya next week. Can't wait to talk about Texas. Should be a fun race. See you guys.